Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. This is day 2. We were talking about the 12-Step Realtor Survival Guide. Thank you for all the great feedback on yesterday's podcast. And thanks to all of you who did join Premier Coaching yesterday. And if you've not yet joined Premier Coaching, what the heck are you waiting for? There is absolutely no reason for you not to join Premier Coaching urgently, especially because you can join right now and get 30 days for a Premier Coaching, which does include a DISC personality test, which does include a lot of the things we talk about in this podcast, scripts and plans and all the rest of it. But what it also includes, for free for the first 30 days, is a daily semi-private coaching call with a real live human. You and the coach, Harris Certified Coach, a daily semi-private coaching call. You also get access to our community page. It's a private Facebook group, everything. And you can join Premier Coaching right now for absolutely nothing, no strings attached. Just text the word Premier, and you spell Premier, Premier. Text the word Premier to 47372. And when you do, you can join Premier Coaching. Again, no strings attached, absolutely no reason for every single one of you to even think twice about doing this. Do this urgently. Join Premier Coaching now. You love what you get on this podcast. You will not believe what you get inside Premier Coaching. This podcast, we do our best. You guys love it. You give us great reviews. We love all the feedback. It's really incredibly motivating for Julie and I to know that we're having a positive influence on your lives. But if you like what you get in this podcast, you will not believe what you get in Premier Coaching. And you can join Premier Coaching for 30 days for free. So go ahead and text the word Premier to 47372. And remember, message and data rates may apply. So go ahead and text the word Premier to 47372. Do that now. You can do that while you're listening to today's podcast. All right, Julie, let's jump right back in. And if you did not listen to yesterday's podcast, please go back and listen to that. Julie and I did a lot of preparation for the points and where we're hoping that many of you lead your mindset and then your skill set in essentially anticipation of this fast-changing market. And I want to start out by repeating something that Julie and I talked about yesterday. And here it is. Last time there was a market shift, it was back in 06. Everyone says 07, but it really did start in 06. Really started in 05 in some markets, but we were noticing it as coaches in 06. And then it really became obvious in 07. The real estate market did not hit bottom and then start to pivot back towards being a more normal market, let alone a seller's market, until 2012. So what does that tell you? Real estate market shifts happen slow, but they take even longer to make any sort of meaningful pivot back away from whatever direction they're headed in. But that was then. What we're seeing now is the market shift faster than it did then. Everyone talks about the great housing crash of 2007 through 2000 and whatever they decide the end date to be. We just told you it was 2012. All these people are talking about everything that happened, and there was all these, housing foreclosures and all these tsunami of REOs and short sales and all the rest of this, and all those things were true. We were right there with you guys. We were coaching agents in that marketplace. But even to get to those types of depths in the marketplace, it took a long damn time.
Years, really.
Years, it did. And then for it to turn around, and once it did, obviously it turned around in a meaningful way. But now what we're seeing is we're seeing things happen in weeks, not even months, let alone years. Now, I want to be very clear, incredibly clear. There is no housing bubble. There is no housing crash on the horizon. Virtually none of the things that were true back in 06 and 07 are true now. And if you don't believe us, do your own homework, but start out by listening to the podcast we did called 15, I think it was 15 reasons why there is
15,
no,
yep.
why there is no housing crash. Go and listen to that podcast. Obviously available everywhere, Spotify, iTunes, on our main website, timandjulieharris.com. Listen to our points, and then if you don't agree, put in comments why you don't agree. But in the meantime, do not worry that there's going to be any kind of housing crash, but there will be a crash for many agents who do not adapt and have the new skills that this market requires.
Well, that's right. They may have their own personal crash.
Right.
But, through no fault of our own, hopefully, right? Because we're trying to educate you, motivate you, and get you into action.
We can't help or we can't prevent, obviously, any kind of correction or change or shift in the housing market. But what we can have a positive influence on, if you allow us to, is to prevent you from having your own, as Julie just said, personal, economic, and emotional crash. What is incredibly motivating for Julie and I right now is, having done this before in another massively shifting market, is helping you to avoid all of the unnecessary hardship that comes from that type of thing. It's not just your transactions, guys. There is huge amounts of emotional turmoil that happens anytime there's a big shift like this, because many people they're totally and completely unfamiliar. They don't know how to pivot, basically. They don't know what to do. Every place they turn, no one's really telling them what to do. Their personal economy is getting worse. Their mindset is getting worse. Their health is, then all these other things that follow it. We're here to hopefully be the beacon in all that fog and give you guys a direction to follow, so that you will not just survive, but you'll thrive because of this market.
That's right. And putting your own oxygen mask on first means that you then will be able to counsel your prospects and clients when you come across situations you haven't maybe heard before. Maybe somebody finds out they're going to walk away with a little bit less money and you haven't heard that yet. It's funny, on coaching calls, I'm hearing these inklings of different things, like, dealing with more appraisal issues, or, oh my gosh, the seller says they're only getting 3 offers. How do I handle that?
Well, how about this?
It's a sliding scale, though, right?
When we did the podcast on working with buyers, the series of podcasts on working with buyers and the different types of financing, were you not shocked how much of the feedback that we got back were from loan officers? People that had no flipping clue about anything we were talking about. That's right. And credit to them for listening, and credit to them for admitting they didn't know what we were talking about, and then wanting to basically meet the market where it. But again, why were we? Our primary audience is, real estate professionals, mortgage folks fall into that bucket, but primarily real estate agents. But how many real estate agents out there right now are dealing with loan officers that do not know how to get deals done in this marketplace?
Exactly.
I would guess pretty much all of them.
Exactly.
Right. And so now loan officers are going to have to adapt. The industry is going to have to adapt. Guys, this is the great clean out of essentially the fake you do agent at the end of the day.
Agreed.
Again, we talked about this yesterday, in great detail. So go back and listen to the first podcast, and we're going to jump right now to point number 5.
Point number 5 is stop wasting your time on what we lovingly call the 3 Bs of BS in real estate: building your brand, buying buyer leads, and building a team. None of those 3 Bs actually lead to profitability. And in fact, they do the opposite, wasting both your time and your money. Your product is profit. So stop running a nonprofit immediately and put your own face mask back on. Breathe in, breathe out. We had a call, I think a week and a half ago, from an agent who was used to doing 60 to 80 deals a year. She had a team of buyer's agents. The showings had dropped off. The buyer interest had dropped off. Their pendings had dropped off. So it's time to put her oxygen mask on first.
We got to, we're getting droves of messages like that, just like we did back in 07, 08. And here's the typical scenario. Now, this is you. Please listen to what we're telling you. Do not wait too long to make a change. Do not wait to see if things start to return. Do not wait to see if all of a sudden the market starts to pivot back. Do not wait to see if things somehow reinflate themselves. They're not going to. And what's going to happen is you are going to wait to see to the point where essentially you're broke. And some of you are going to be broke to the point where you're going to have to sell whatever assets and wealth that you created for yourself. We saw this happen so many times during the last crash, and we felt like we didn't get to those people quick enough. And the analogy that Julie and I have worked up in our minds over time was essentially, we're in this boat, right? We're in this boat and there's people in the water. And there's 3 types of people in the water. There's the people that are already in the boat and we're grabbing hold and we're pulling them up in the boat. There's people that are sort of swimming in circles, and there's the people that are swimming away from us. And what Julie and I are doing is we're focusing obviously on the people that are wanting to get up in the boat, and they're going to be with us in that boat, and they're going to be part of essentially the new market that's going to become. Then there's people that are swimming in circles. And what we're trying to do, that's a lot of times what we're doing on this podcast, is we're doing our best to get you to pay attention that you need to stop swimming in circles and you just swim towards the boat, so that once you're on the boat, then you can essentially, go to what's next in your life in a positive way. And then there's the people that are swimming away from us. Now, here's the thing that's fascinating, and I know this for a fact. 90% of you are not going to listen. You're going to stay swimming in circles until you exhaust and you sink. Or you're going to swim away from us because you're not willing to pivot. You're not willing to change. Please do not do that, because here's the thing. You align with Julie and I. You become one of our Premier Coaching members. It does not cost you anything for the first 30 days. Join, discover it's for you. Then you'll obviously love it. And you'll realize this is what you've been looking for. Intuitively, you know what I'm saying is true. So text the word Premier to 47372. Message and data rates may apply. But what happens if we follow our other advice and you end up cutting some of these expenses? You end up, saying, you know what, maybe this branding stuff is a fallacy. Maybe if I can't really tie results to effort, I shouldn't be doing it. Maybe I actually start listening to what Tim and Julie say, and I really drill down and I prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. What's the downside of that? What's the expense of you doing that? So teams, brokerages, listen to what I'm saying, because the reality of it is if you wait too long, your situation is you're going to start essentially your burn rate, your monthly burn rate is going to start consuming all the things in your life. And then eventually after it consumes your money, it's going to consume things like your health, your happiness, your marital, all these things happen. This is what happens in a market like this for people that keep swimming in circles or people that swim away. Look, we are not the only ones with boat in the water trying to save agents. There's others of us, but you've got to know that if there's not a direct correlation between your effort and your results, the effort is you help just doing what Julie and I just said. You're going to be in the marketplace like this too. You've got your own boat. You're going to have people that are wanting to, be helped. You're going to help those people. People that are swimming in circles, not knowing what to do in a market like this, buyers and sellers. You're going to help them if they pay attention. Then people are swimming in the way. Let the people who are swimming away swim away. You got to help the people that are ready to be helped. That is what this market is all about. But in order for you to have a boat, in order for people to want to get on your boat, you're going to have to know what to do to actually save them. You're going to have to know what to do to actually save yourself and make this market where you can actually thrive, not just financially, well, especially financially, but you're going to build such an incredibly powerful mindset, and your essentially emotional resilience will be something of a true leader. That's when a market like this, that's frankly what an economy, that's what this time in our history, this is the highest and best use of your time, is being of service to other people, and this is how you do it. Hopefully that resonates with all of you.
Yeah, so get away from wasting your time on the 3 B's of BS in real estate. Point number 6, many of your buyers are becoming less and less qualified the longer you take to get them into contract. Unless they are all cash, your buyers are having to spend more in not just 1 or 2 areas, but 3 areas of expenditure the longer you're taking to solve their problem of finding a house. Those 3 areas are, they're going to pay a higher purchase price, they're going to have to come up with a larger down payment, and a larger down payment and a larger actual payment. This means that some will become unqualified.
And also, Jules, don't forget, Fannie Mae has regulations that the lenders have to follow to do loans. What these lenders are doing, and again, advanced loan information, especially for you loan officers who don't know what the heck we're talking about, the overlays that are coming from the actual lenders beyond what Fannie Mae says someone has to have to qualify. Like you guys are going to Google it, or consumers going to Google qualifications become a mortgage. You're going to spit out some, thing from Fannie Mae. You have to credit score of this, an income debt to ratio of this, Well, little do you know, when you call Mr. Lender, let's call it Bank of America, Wells Fargo, or whomever, that they have an additional stack of requirements on top of whatever Fannie Mae is. That's the government controls mortgages, but the banks determine who gets the mortgages.
And that's getting tighter and tighter. They're adding more and more overlays. And you and I listened to an interesting podcast this morning that I hadn't actually thought of the effect of a higher price of everything, your down payment, of certainly your actual payment, and the fact that most lenders and Fannie Mae have not adjusted for the ratios.
Right.
That was very interesting because, if it's going to be a higher price, the ratio is going to have to go up too. And if they haven't, then just the ratio alone is going to take some borrowers out of the market until that changes, if it's going to change.
Well, in Fannie Mae, when prices went up over the last 12 months by 25%, and let's say over the next 12 months they go up by another 6 to 8%. Oh, boo hiss.
Oh, no.
Come on, guys, trust me, that's still fantastic.
Yes.
But Fannie Mae, so let's say between the last, 24 months, the average home's gone up by 30%.
Right.
Fannie Mae has not increased their loan limit by 30%.
No, nor has people's income gone up by 30%.
Nope. And matter of fact, not only has their incomes not gone up by 30%, but their cost of living has gone up by 30%, which means you're going to have a hell of a lot more unqualified buyers out there.
Yes.
So Julie's
meanwhile, we'll do more on lending, I'm sure, in future podcasts. But meanwhile, due to the edge of recession and inflation, people are putting some of their expenditure where? On their credit cards. What does that do? It makes their credit score go down while all the rest of this is happening. So the point is, not everybody you're working with that you're calling a buyer is even still qualified. You've got to know who's who and get their lender's letters updated to meet today's higher interest rate environment and higher lender overlay requirements. Meanwhile, the house they wanted now costs 10 to 20% more. Some will drop out of the market. This has already been happening over the past 30 days. There is a significant payments difference between the 2.7% that we started the year with and last week's average of 5.1. They're going to raise it again by a half point in June. And they've also said right now they're thinking they're going to do 2 or 3 more quarter point increases before the end of the year. So know who's who on your buyer list because things are changing on a daily basis.
And remember, we did do a week's worth of podcast on that very topic, working with buyers. Make sure you listen to that. The feedback on that was really fantastic. Definitely go back and listen to that. And look, 99% of you have only been in the business, not been in the business, but maybe how many of you have actually been in the business for 5 years, let alone 10? You guys get the point? All the rules are changing. You need to update your skill set. And
one of the ways that we knew when this was happening 2 or 3 weeks ago, this is the advantage of being involved with our coaching business, is that our coaches, and I have clients, you've got clients as well, we all heard almost literally on the same day that showing activity had slowed.
Yep.
Right? And especially if you are a listener who is not yourself a powerful listing agent carrying inventory all the time where you would see this, be friends with listing agents because they will tell you the frequency of showings are dropping off, not just on a daily showing basis, but also their weekend showings and their open house attendance.
Yep.
And what does that tell you? It means that buyers are dropping out.
Well, so buyers are that's the problem ultimately, guys. Remember, again, we talk about this all the time. I have to always remind myself that a lot of you are discovering us for the first time because of this changing market. The fact is, there's no such thing as a buyer that has to buy. There's no such thing that a buyer that is as a buyer that has to buy because they can always rent. They can always stay put. And we're going to be in this it's going to last maybe years, guys, where that's what's going to happen. A lot of buyers are going to essentially not be able to buy because they're not going to qualify, but you're also going to see a lot of potential buyers that have homes to sell, but they're going to decide not to sell. They're going to decide to stay put because their mortgage interest rate is 3%, and now the new rate is 6%. They're going to stay put. They're going to do rehabs. They're just going to, and this has happened generationally. It's not unusual. Like Julie, well, both of us, frankly, we grew up in the first house that our parents bought. Actually, Julie's parents had a little starter home before the one that she grew up in. But this cycle of people buying and selling and buying and selling, a lot of this was interest rate depending. So, interest rate dependent, and a lot of that's going to start slowing down. But overall, guys, just be very clear. You're still in the greatest business ever because everyone always has to transact. The greed-based transactions are probably in many markets going to come to an end. People are not going to be buying a house because they're feeling like they're winning the lottery ticket, even though historically over time they absolutely are. Buying a house is the greatest way to build long-term wealth. Really, that's it. Bottom line, if you want to know the difference between people that have wealth and don't have wealth, the number one thing is, do they own a home? And over time, owning a home has proven to be the greatest wealth creator that anyone can have access to. And by the way, not only is it an appreciating asset, but you also get to live in it. And this whole cycle of essentially people buying for the sake of investing, and I know that's very trendy, and a lot of you have only been in business for that period of time, you're going to have to adjust your mindset. And remember that very, very, very few normal buyers are buying for the sake of making money. They're buying for the sake of having a place to live.
Exactly. Point number 7 on your survival plan for this shifting market. You are not allowed to complain about past clients, friends, or family if you are not speaking with them regularly. If they list with somebody else. Yes.
Exactly. You forgot that part.
I know,
if you're not, that's okay. But so if your best friend from high school, the person you sit next to in the pew at church, or your mama lists with somebody else, it's not them doing something to you. It's you having done something to yourself.
Or if they go for sale by owner, oh no, how could they dare to do so? Well, if we were to call random people from what you would call your database and ask them who they would list with if they had to sell their home today, would they for sure say your name? If not, what is your system for ensuring that they repeat and refer business to you? Another thing we cover in coaching. And again, you guys love to get mad when you drive by somebody else's sign in their yard.
Well, I remember the first time that happened to us. I was
That's
super
how I
pissed.
know.
Like I'm still carrying that scar.
We could probably name the address.
Yeah, probably. It's horrible.
I know. Don't let it happen to you. That's why you have coaches, so you don't have to suffer the way some of us did. Okay, point number 8. FOMO, F-O-M-O, or fear of missing out, is still strong, but it's weakening as rates continue to climb, as it gets harder to get a loan and inflation going up. Are you practicing furiously fast lead follow-up and using buyer and seller pre-qualification scripts to sift and sort who's serious and who isn't? Now more than ever, it's critical for you to discover who is a have-to-sell seller versus just a want-to-sell seller. And remember, as we just said, there are no have-to-buy buyers. They don't exist. Many great sellers appear in your lead follow-up as buyer calls. Again, we did a whole podcast last week about that. Are you using a buyer lead conversion script that reveals if they are also a motivated seller? Remember, the sellers who are going to sell going forward are the most serious sellers. You know, the ones that you've always wanted to have in your listing inventory, who will listen to what you have to say because they have to sell.
So, Julie, I received a number of inquiries from people who are fearful of cutting expenses too much, or they're fearful of making a change. And it's difficult when you don't have a long-term coaching relationship to explain to them why they're actually resisting the obvious change that they need to make. But for the sake of this podcast, we're going to tell you what the end result would be. So if you're stuck in a situation right now where you're intellectually confident that the expenditure that you're putting out is not leading you to the desired result, and you're still unwilling to change, the reason is because of your ego. It's not any real rational reason. It's because emotionally you're fearful of how other people will perceive you if all of a sudden you stop doing the branding and the marketing. If all of a sudden you stop, how many of you are emotionally attached to the idea that you have to have a big team or a bunch of, staff, or you have to have this big brand, or you want to become an influencer, even though there's no direct correlation between the effort and the money spent and the results that you are getting. And many of you don't know what I'm saying is true. And so what you're going to discover is in a market like this, you're going to continue to spend money on stuff like this. Some of you, hopefully not all of you, you're going to continue to spend money on that stuff that there's no direct relation between effort and results. What do I mean by that? You make a phone call to a center of influence and past client. You use one of our script. It's not frankly, it's not very salesy. It results in you getting a lead. Effort, results. You guys get it? Effort, results. You call that lead, you get the listing. Effort, results. And now you're going to help somebody and you're going to get paid. Versus what many of you do, which is more passive in your approach. And let's just put it all encapsulated into the concept of being an influencer, right? In building your brand and being an influencer. All these sort of trendy things that came about. That is a trend. A trend is like bell bottoms, right? They come and they go, and eventually maybe they come back in a different form. And bell bottoms are trying to make a comeback, but fortunately,
please no.
Yeah, fortunately, I think people beat that trend back into submission, and it'll hopefully never emerge again. But the truth is a lot of this branding stuff you guys have got addicted to doing, and you're afraid to stop doing it. Fear and ego are kind of basically, they're the same thing, and you're fearful of doing it because you got no plan B. You're fearful of doing it because you don't want to admit, frankly, me being direct, that it never was going to work in the first place, and your ego does not want you to admit that doing it in the first place was largely essentially an expression of more ego. In other words, you wanted to become an influencer, or again, not just a big tent where all these things are going to live for the sake of our explanation here. You wanted to become an influencer, not for generating transactions, but because you wanted to appear successful. And there's Julie, and Julie was listening to a podcast the other day. It was called a fake influencer. Scamfluencer, right? And talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, this has become sort of a let's identify what they were presenting themselves as, and then who they really are, and that it's mostly fake. I mean, then there's all these different types of examples, and it ranges anywhere from Ponzi schemes that we've heard about to reality TV that isn't what it shows. Dude,
it's so much. It's crypto. It's a lot of these guys that were teaching betting strategies. A lot of these people that were teaching, oh my gosh, you guys ask us why we're not teaching information on how to be a real estate investor to non-licensees. Well, I'll tell you why. That is the grossest industry we've ever studied in our entire lives. It's so full of absolutely straight up crooks. We want nothing to do with it. Julie and I were offered over the years at least 2 TV shows on HGTV where we were supposed to be the experts teaching non-licensees how to flip houses. We said hell to the no. We want nothing to do with that
Because
industry.
we do know the ugly underbelly of that.
We do. And all this stuff, all this fakery stuff, it was essentially people being manipulated by their egos to buy things and do things that are not in their best interest. And their payoff was essentially they began to feel famous. They were people in their minds. They were getting this bucket filled of being essentially adulation and recognition. So I'm going to tell you guys where am I going with all this? And we're going to wrap up the show for today. I was on a Clubhouse, and I've told this story before, but it was really influential.
Clubhouse is an app where you call, hopefully they do.
Yeah. So here's the question. If you had to choose today, it's so funny now the economy is changing. I have a feeling I know how all of you would answer, regardless of age. But if you had to choose between being rich and being famous, which would you choose? Okay, so what's rich? I'll give you our definition, and this is in our best-selling book, Harris Rules. Get it on Amazon or... oh, by the way, if you give us a 5-star review on iTunes and include a pithy comment, come on, Julie, that was a good segue.
That was a good wander in.
Don't laugh at me. I'm working on my segues. Right? You will probably qualify to receive an autographed copy of our best-selling book, Harris Rules. Our staff is deciding who's going to obviously win the contest. So far, I have to say, of the dozens that we've received in the past 30 days, I see no losers. Hint, hint. So if you would give us a 5-star review and a pithy comment, if you feel our podcast merits a 5-star review and a pithy comment, please do consider giving us such on iTunes. We'd certainly appreciate it. Then you get an autographed copy of our book, Harris Rules. I'll tell you guys something really funny. When Julie and I have a publisher, it's not self-published. When we published the book originally, they allowed us to buy so many books at a discount, and even the discount wasn't that great. It was $8 a book, listeners. Yep. That's how much we had to pay. So for these free books that we're giving you guys out, guess what we're getting on Amazon? Guess what we're paying retail?
I know, and we tried. For our own book.
Yeah.
How's that fair?
Where was I going with all this?
I don't remember.
Anyway, so the moral of the story is if you have to decide between being rich and being famous, what would you choose? Remember, rich is where your money works for you and you no longer have to work for your money. Which are you going to choose? Well, generally speaking, when people are younger, they choose being famous. Now, you can't be both. Don't fool yourself in thinking you can be both. Julie and I live in a place in Puerto Rico called Dorado, and we're friends with some very well-known influencer types. And if I rattle off names, if you guys are at all paying attention to YouTube, you'll know exactly who they are. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are rich. The rest are basically spending every single cent that they get from the ads that run, accompanying their YouTube ads, or YouTube channel. They're spending it all on basically getting more people to watch their videos so they can sell more ads, so they can spend more money getting more people to watch it. In other words, they want to brag about how many followers, how many likes. All this insanity, guys. These types of behaviors have become normalized in the real estate industry. And I'll tell you where it's manifested itself in the worst way. And those of you who listen to this podcast every day, and those of you who watch the fake YouTube real estate coaches, you know what I'm talking about. Some of these essentially marketers have gotten into the space of trying to sell you guys into believing that they're real, essentially experienced real estate coaches. Listen to them, compare them to us, you decide. I'll just leave it at that. But at the end of the day, you have to choose. Are you going to be rich or are you going to be famous? You can't choose both. And here's the thing. Many of you, when you're younger, virtually everyone you know, think about this. Kids, like our daughter, frankly, and people all the way into maybe their early 30s, without knowing it, because no one's ever presented them with this, this quandary, right? Rich or famous. Without knowing it, they all choose to be famous. What about it in the human psyche needs this external recognition from the tribe, to feel validated? That's what all that social media crap is at the end of the day. Now, there is a place for social media, but it's not the leading edge of your business. Your business has to be proactively lead generation based and passively generation based if you choose for it to be at all. But again, over time, what you're going to decide is, let's say you grow up a little bit, you grow a little bit older, you wish you would have made different decisions. And then what happens is you grow older. Let's say you go from your 20s to your 30s. Let's say you have a family, you have more expenses. You will start regretting focusing so much on wanting to be famous. You will absolutely, and this is happening with millennials right now. You're not going to be able to buy a house. You're not going to have the financial independence you want. You will have gotten all this attention from people. And by the way, the attention is fleeting as hell. It's going to come and go in weeks and sometimes months. And this is what you guys are paying for. This is what you're sacrificing your future for, so you can get recognition from strangers who will forget your name in 2 weeks. This is the reality of all the things that you guys have been spending your money on. To believe that that's how you build a long-term sustainable business, to believe that's how you build wealth, For 99.9% of us, it's an act of futility. This is just the cold, hard reality. The way you build your business, the way you build any business, is providing a superior level of service to other people. Elon Musk, he was talking about this in a podcast or something I read recently. He said to become essentially financially free, and financially free is where your money works for you. You no longer have to work for your money. The easiest way to do it is create a product that a lot of people want to purchase, that you make enough profit from, that you can then essentially create independence for yourself. That's it.
Simple.
It's simple. Mm-hmm. And guys, so keep your heads screwed on straight. Be careful who you listen to, even at a transitory time like this. So for those of you who are essentially, again, we talked about this before, you're essentially in the ocean swimming in circles and you're not knowing what to do. The problem is eventually you're going to run out of energy. Energy is money. And then you're going to run out of confidence. And then you're going to ruin your future potential. Do what intuitively you know is the right thing to do. And if there is not a direct correlation between this effort and the result that I get, which is helping somebody and making money, in a market, in a transitioning market like this, stop doing it. Just stop doing it. Put it on hold. Pause it. Put it on the back shelf. Maybe never do it again. But guys, you have to overcorrect to the side of being more conservative in a market like this financially, and you got to start leaning into skills.
Don't let yourself get your butt kicked before you make a decision. We did see that last go around. We have too many examples. We're not going to torture you with those. But the agents that survived that and made the changes are actually the ones who are in the most healthy position right now, but they learned the hard way. One of the reasons you listen to this podcast is so that you don't have to learn the hard way. You can learn from those who have gone before you, from our Harris certified coaches, from us, from people who have been there and done that. So you don't have to live in fear of the unknown. You can say, you know what? If these people that have come before me are saying there's a market shift and I need to get my act together and get my skill set going, I'm not going to question that. I'm just going to do it.
That's right. That's the bottom line, guys. That's the cold, hard reality. And it's okay. Matter of fact, it's incredibly intelligent to admit you don't know what the hell to do. It's hard to do, especially after you've been successful and people see you as an influencer. And I'm doing air quotes, which, you guys can probably hear. Yes. But, the reality of it is it's hard for you to say, well, now I need to adapt and now I need to change, because, your ego is telling you to just toe the line. Stay swimming in circles for longer. Eventually the market's going to change. Eventually you're going to have enough influence that everyone's going to be at a path to your door. Intuitively, if it were, that's not true. You know that doesn't make any sense. You know at the end of the day that you have to suck it up, buttercup, and you have to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. In this marketplace, it's learning the skill set necessary to be of service to other people. You can do it. Here's your homework for today's podcast and every podcast, because it is the best way for us to help you guys in this transitioning market. Join Premier Coaching. Text the word Premier to 47372. Do that now while you're thinking about it. Don't wait. Join Premier Coaching. It's free, no strings attached for the first 30 days. You are going to get, again, when you guys log in and you see all the things you're getting in Premier Coaching, you are going to be absolutely astonished. You love the podcast. You won't believe what you get in Premier Coaching. And yes, it does include a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches. Text the word Premier to 47372. Do that urgently. Do that right now. Do not wait. And guys, thank you for allowing Julie and I the honor of being your real estate coaches in this transitioning market. We're going to continue to leave it all on the field for you every single day. Thank you for continuing to make this number one listen to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. Oh, Julie, did I tell you
what?
We're number one in education in Tanzania?
All right. Shout out to Tanzania.
You guys have a fantastic day.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.